She is 78 years old. Every morning before sunrise, she leaves her one-room apartment in Singapore, one of the wealthiest cities on Earth, and pushes a cart through the streets, collecting cardboard boxes from the backs of shops and restaurants. She flattens them, she stacks them, she sells them to a recycler for a few cents per kilogram. On a good day, she earns $4. She does this not because she enjoys it, not because it keeps her busy. She does it because without those $4, she cannot eat. Singapore's GDP per capita is over $65,000. It is one of the top 5 wealthiest nations on Earth by that measure. It has gleaming airports, world-class hospitals, and some of the most expensive real estate in Asia.
And every morning, hundreds of elderly people push carts through its streets, collecting garbage to survive. She is not the exception. She is the rule. This is a video about 4 of the wealthiest, most technologically advanced societies in Asia: South Korea, Japan, China, and Singapore. Countries that the world holds up as models of economic achievement. Countries that built miracles. And it is a video about what those miracles cost. About the generation that built them. About what happened to those people when the building was done and the world moved on. Because right now, across Asia, tens of millions of elderly people who sacrificed their health, their families, and their futures to build some of the most prosperous nations on Earth are living in poverty, dying alone, and collecting cardboard to survive. And almost nobody is talking about it.
The part 1, the paradox. There is a pattern running through every country in this video. The pattern looks like this. A nation is poor. The people sacrifice enormously to build it into something. They work brutal hours, accept low wages, give up personal freedoms, subordinate everything to economic growth. The nation becomes rich. The GDP soars. The skylines fill with glass and steel. The world applauds. And then, those people, the ones who built it all, grow old. And the system that extracted everything from them turns around and offers them almost nothing in return. This is not an accident. It is not a policy failure that slipped through the cracks. It is the logical outcome of societies that were built to produce, not to care. Societies that valued the young and the working and had no real plan for what to do with people once they stopped being economically useful. South Korea has the highest elderly poverty rate of any developed nation on Earth. 40% of people over 65 live below the relative poverty line. That is according to the OECD's own 2025 data. The OECD average is around 14%. South Korea's rate is nearly 3 times that. Japan, despite its image as a society that reveres its elders, has a 20% elderly poverty rate, well above the OECD average, with nearly 20% of seniors living alone and more than 76,000 people dying alone in their homes in 2024. China has 310 million people over the age of 60, roughly the entire population of the United States, and a pension system that the Chinese Academy of Social Sciences has warned could be completely exhausted by 2035 without major reform. And Singapore, a city-state with one of the highest GDPs per capita in the world, has elderly people sleeping in one-room flats and collecting cardboard at midnight because their retirement savings were never enough and their families are gone or distant.
These are not developing world problems. These are the problems of prosperous nations, of economic miracles. That is what makes this a paradox.
Part 2. South Korea. Built the miracle, abandoned in it.
South Korea's economic rise in the second half of the 20th century is one of the most dramatic in human history. In 1960, South Korea had a GDP per capita roughly equivalent to Ghana. By 2000, it was a global industrial powerhouse. By today, it is home to Samsung, Hyundai, LG, and a cultural export machine that spans the entire globe. The people who built that, the generation that worked in the factories in the 1960s and 70s, that sacrificed through the authoritarian years, that put their heads down and produced, are now in their 70s and 80s. And 40% of them are living in poverty.
That number bears repeating. South Korea, the 12th largest economy in the world, has an elderly poverty rate of 40%, the highest of any OECD member nation. Not the second highest, the highest, by a significant margin. The reason comes down to a catastrophic structural failure in how the pension system was built. South Korea's national pension scheme was only established in 1988. That means the generation that did the heaviest lifting, the people who worked through the 1960s, 70s, and most of the 80s, made zero pension contributions during their most productive years. They had no system to contribute to, and so when they retired, they had nothing coming back from the state. Those that did contribute often did so at rates that produced replacement incomes far below what was needed. The pension system's income replacement rate, how much of your working salary you get back in retirement, is among the lowest in the OECD.
The expectation was that children would take care of parents. That was the Confucian social contract. You sacrifice for your children sacrifice for you. The family is the safety net. But Korea industrialized fast, urbanized fast. Young people moved to cities for work. Family structures fragmented. The children who were supposed to care for their parents found themselves stretched thin, working the same brutal hours, living in the same expensive cities, raising their own children in the same pressurized system. And the elderly parents were left behind, in rural towns, in small apartments, with inadequate pensions and nobody nearby to fill the gap. Among women, the elderly poverty rate is even higher, 43.2%. Because women of that generation were less likely to have worked in formal employment, less likely to have contributed to pension systems, more likely to have spent their lives as caregivers, unpaid, unrecognized, and invisible to the state machinery that was busy counting economic output.
Of South Koreans aged 65 to 79, nearly 58% say they want to continue working. Not because work gives them purpose, because without work, they cannot survive. Part 3. Japan. Dying alone in the world's most polite society. Japan is famous for many things: its order, its precision, its reverence for tradition, its image as a society that honors its elders. That image is cracking. Japan is the world's oldest country by population share. 30% of Japanese adults are over 65. By 2050, that figure is projected to reach nearly 40%. It is a society aging at a speed that its social infrastructure was never designed to handle. And the consequences are playing out in a crisis that Japan has given its own word: Kodokushi. Lonely death. It refers to people, almost always elderly, almost always poor, almost always alone, who die in their homes and are not discovered for days, weeks, or in the most heartbreaking cases, years.
Prison in Japan offers a warm room, 3 meals a day, and free medical care. For some elderly people who cannot afford heat or skipping meals, who have no one to help them when they fall ill, prison is preferable to freedom. Japan's prison population is aging faster than almost any other in the world. In some prisons, over a third of inmates are over 60. Many are repeat offenders who committed the same petty crime. shoplifting a rice ball, stealing a small amount of cash, not because they are criminals, but because incarceration is the only social safety net they have left. That is not a crime problem. That is a social failure so profound that people are choosing captivity over the freedom of being ignored. Meanwhile, Japan has 19.4% of seniors aged 65 and above living entirely alone, a figure that keeps rising as birth rates fall, young people migrate to cities for work, and the extended family structures that once absorbed elderly people into daily life continue to dissolve.
The community ties that used to catch people before they fell, neighborhood associations, local temples, multi-generational households, have weakened. And in their place, there is often nothing. Just an apartment and silence and a door that no one knocks on. Part 4. China. 310 million people and a pension system heading for collapse. China is the second largest economy in the world. It has sent spacecraft to the moon. It has built bullet train networks that would embarrass most of Europe. It has lifted more people out of poverty in a shorter period of time than any society in human history. It also has 310 million people over the age of 60, roughly 22% of its total population, and a pension system that experts have warned repeatedly and clearly is heading toward collapse. The Chinese Academy of Social Sciences warned in 2019 that without major reform, China's National Social Security Fund, the state pension fund, would be completely depleted by 2035. By 2024, the math had only gotten worse.
Fewer than 3 workers in China are now supporting each retiree through the contribution-based pension system. In 2011, that ratio was much higher. It has been declining every year as the workforce ages, the birth rate falls, and youth unemployment continues to climb. China's youth unemployment rate, excluding college students, reached 21.3% in June 2023, before the government stopped publishing the data temporarily. When it resumed reporting, the rate had been recalculated under a narrower definition, but the underlying pressure remained. Fewer young workers contributing, more elderly drawing down, and a funding gap growing wider every year. China began raising its statutory retirement age in January 2025, the first such adjustment in 70 years. The retirement age will gradually increase over 15 years, rising to 63 for men and 55 to 58 for women, depending on their profession.
It is a necessary reform, but it is also, for many workers in physically demanding jobs, a sentence to keep working beyond what their bodies can sustain. The deeper inequality is geographic. Urban workers in formal employment in cities like Beijing and Shanghai receive relatively better pensions through the urban employee system. Rural workers, who make up a massive share of the population, who worked the land and raised the generation that migrated to cities, receive dramatically less. In some rural areas, the basic monthly pension payment amounts to the equivalent of a few dozen dollars. These are people who worked, who contributed, whose children left for the cities to power the economic engine, and who now sit in villages with failing health, inadequate pensions, and family support systems that exist in theory but have been hollowed out by the practical reality of modern Chinese life.
The traditional concept of filial piety, children caring for parents, has not disappeared, but it has been stretched to near breaking point by urbanization, by economic pressure, and by the fundamental impossibility of caring for a parent in a rural village when your job is 1,000 kilometers away in a city. China added a legal obligation in 2013 requiring adult children to visit their elderly parents regularly. There is now a law mandating that children must emotionally support their parents. That a law had to be written for this tells you everything about the scale of what has been lost. Part 5. Singapore, the richest city where grandparents collect rubbish. Singapore is a city-state that runs with the precision of a machine. It has world-class infrastructure,
A famously efficient government, one of the highest GDPs per capita on Earth, clean streets, stable institutions, a globally respected financial system. It is also a city where, if you walk through the right neighborhoods at the right time of night, you will see elderly people, many in their 70s and 80s, pushing heavy metal carts through the streets, collecting discarded cardboard boxes to sell to recyclers. They are called cardboard collectors, and their existence in one of the world's wealthiest cities is one of the most jarring paradoxes in Asia. A 65-year-old collector named Tan Loi Chai once described her routine, leaving home around 11 p.m. or midnight, working through the night, selling what she had collected for cents per kilogram. A full night of heavy physical labor might earn her a few dollars.
When a government minister joined a youth volunteer group to speak with some of these collectors and then posted his observations on Facebook, he suggested that some collectors did it for exercise, that collecting cardboard was a way to stay active and maintain dignity. The response from the public was swift and furious. Mohammed Nafiz Kamarudin, founder of Happy People Helping